When it comes down to warfare, one of the most memorable mythological wars is the Trojan War. The story of the Trojan War has been told over several poems detailing the 10-year skirmish between the Greeks and Trojans, with the most iconic and memorable poem being Homer's Iliad, which to be fair only covers a small portion of the overall war. With the armies of Greeks and Trojans fighting one another, you'd think it'd make a great setting for a Musou or Dynasty Warriors-like game, right? Well, Koei Canada thought so too, and with that we have Warriors Legends of Troy, also known as Troy Musou in Japan. The game is part of the hack and slash genre and a spin-off to the more traditional Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors games, with Achilles from the games appearing in crossover games Warriors Orochi 3 and 4 as a playable character. While the Trojan War is a very well-known story, I am going to spoil the details of it at some point in this video, so if for whatever reasons you don't want spoilers about an event that supposedly took place a few millennia ago, then skip to the opinion for a summary. I also apologise for any mispronunciation of names. In Warriors Legends of Troy, you play as characters from the Greek and Trojan armies in a dramatised retelling of the events of the Trojan War. On the Greek side you have Achilles, Patroclus, Odysseus and Telamonian Ajax, not to be confused with the other Ajax who's known as Ajax the Lesser. For the Trojans you have Hector, Paris, Penthesilea and Aeneas. You also have other important characters that play the role of NPCs during stages such as Agamemnon, Menelaus, Hippolyte, Priam and Theseus to name a few. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Trojan War, the catalyst to the war began with the judgment of Paris. Paris was a prince of Troy, but it was foretold that with his birth Troy would fall. Priam and Hecuba, unable to kill their own child, left it up to their chief herdsman to get rid of Paris. Unable to bring himself to use a weapon on the child, the herdsman left Paris out in the wild so that nature would do its course. Fortunately for Paris, he lived. After 9 days, the herdsman returned to find the child was still alive, so he decided to raise the child as his own and give Priam a dog's tongue to fool him into thinking the deed had been done. Fast forward many years later, and to keep this from being a history lesson, Paris had to pick between Aphrodite, Athena and Hera as to whom would have an apple that was addressed to the most beautiful. The three goddesses made offers to Paris, Hera offering him wealth and power, Athena offered him wisdom and prowess in battle, and Aphrodite offered him the love of the most beautiful woman on earth. Paris ultimately chose Aphrodite and she fulfilled her end of the bargain. The only problem was, that woman was Helen of Sparta, who was the wife of King Menelaus. After Paris brings her back to Troy and reveals himself to his true parents, Menelaus invokes the oath that whomever won Helen's hand in marriage would be defended by the allies of Greece. And so, the Greeks set sail for Troy to bring her back, and a long-fought war between men with interference from the gods begins. History aside though, how does this game stack up to the Dynasty Warriors formula, and is it any good? Find out in The Good. I do like some of the gameplay in Warriors Legends of Troy. While it has the elements of the Musou series, the game did have some of its own unique features too. Notable changes to the formula involve being able to pick up an enemy's weapon and using it to either kill more enemies, or to throw at them with a neat kill camera following the thrown weapon. The game also encourages blocking and parrying in order to defeat more powerful enemies, with some fights being one-on-one duels between Greek and Trojan warriors. You also have moves which can kill stunned enemies instantly, which I thought was pretty cool too. The game also features boss fights where you fight against mythical creatures complete with your obligatory quicktime events, though regarding QTEs you're either going to not mind them or hate them. Health is more scarce in the game as there are no health pickups. Your character instead has to earn Kleos or Glory, which also acts as the game's currency, in order to regain health. There are two ways of doing this, which is to either chain kills and build up a combo of slaughtering enemies, or explore parts of the map hoping that you find a secret cache in them. The game also has secondary missions which also reward you if you complete them all with bonus Kleos. Characters don't level up as per the standard Musou formula. You increase your combo attacks and stats by purchasing items using your hard-earned Kleos and trying to arrange them in a square grid with better items taking up more space. The game also forgoes Musou attacks and special moves in favour of having your characters enter a frenzy mode where all of their attacks become unblockable for a period of time. There were even story chapters which I quite liked. One has you play as Odysseus and infiltrate Trojan camps. This chapter added a stealth element to the game and I actually had a lot of fun with it, which does make things refreshing. I did like some of these gameplay changes, and I feel that this game has made some effort to make itself more unique when compared to Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. I did enjoy the game's story. It's a nice change of pace at the time when Musou games were more about the Three Kingdoms period in China, or the Warring States period in Japan. It also touches on some of the parts of the war that Homer's Iliad doesn't cover. Contrary to popular belief, the Iliad only covers a portion of the war, and is part of a group of poems known as the Epic Cycle, which, alongside supporting material, since most of it's been lost, gives us the information that we know about the war today. The game's story covers some of those aspects, such as the Greeks sacking the nearby towns and cities around Troy during the first 9 years, as well as the involvement of Penthesilea and the Amazons, 2 events around the Trojan horse, and even drawing parts of the Aeneid, which covers Aeneas' story and his adventures. The game also does a neat job of tying in Penthesilea's story to the overall Trojan War, providing a reason for her hatred of the Greeks. The game also depicts some of the brutality and disrespect the Greek side were known for, and is a little more sympathetic to the Trojans, though they've been known to ignore what the gods say too and get in trouble. I also appreciate how parts of the story are told using red figure vase painting, which was a very popular pottery style used in ancient Greece, with many surviving pieces depicting the events of the war. I also think some of the game's cutscenes have been well done, and the presentation around them were visually appealing. The team at Koei Canada did go to locations where Troy was reported to have been, around the Dardanelles in modern day Turkey, and base locations in the game from the area, so there was a lot of homework done to get this looking right. While there are things which I thought were done right with the game, there are also things which I don't think were done quite right, so let's look at those in the bad. If anything, the extra modes were something I wasn't too keen on. You have several different modes providing you with challenges, such as the Arena, which is a survival mode where you fight one-on-one against the best of Greece and Troy, Bloodlust, which is a survival map where you last as long as you can while your health drops slowly, this can be regained by earning Kleos, and Rampage, where you try to rack up as many kills as you can before your Kleos counter is either interrupted or reset. While these methods are good for grinding Kleos so you can get more items for your inventory grid, and I do like the presentation of them, they didn't really hold my enjoyment for too long, and Kleos aside didn't provide me with much more of an incentive to actively try and beat them, except to get a high score. On the opposite side of the spectrum, a mode which the game sorely lacked is a free mode. Each story chapter locks you in with the character that it spotlights on. If there is a character you enjoy using, you're out of luck as you can only play as them in the challenges or in their respective story missions. I sort of wish there was an option where after beating the chapter you could replay it as any character, providing that you have unlocked them. Some of the gameplay aspects I wasn't a huge fan of either. The game's lock-on system was more of a hindrance at times when there were enemies I wanted to target and the game would lock on to someone else. It got to a point where I just didn't bother targeting anyone and attacked whatever moved hoping it would connect. At least it worked as intended with one-on-one duels. I also found myself having to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the game as I felt that my allied armies and even named characters are sort of just there for decoration. The game doesn't follow the Musou formula of capturing and holding areas, with enemies making attempts to recapture them or try out new tricks on you. Once you complete your main objective, you just move on to the next one and the game doesn't really get busy telling you that you have multiple things to do, so I found each chapter was fairly linear. The hectic nature of the battlefield and trying to prioritise what you need to do was something I enjoyed with Musou games, so it was a bit of a shame when this game didn't even utilise events to reinforce how hectic it would be, such as the sacking of Troy, and hell, even skirmishes between the two armies would have been perfect for it, especially given that both forces constantly lost and gained ground throughout the war. I think this covers off what I didn't like, so it's now time that I give the opinion. Warriors Legends of Troy is a game I feel mixed on. While I do appreciate the change in setting for the game being focused around the Trojan War as well as some of the gameplay and story, it still feels lacking with additional modes I wasn't too keen on as well as other aspects of the gameplay. The game doesn't really have the busy feel to it like other Musou games, and it was most unfortunate that this game was released just before Dynasty Warriors 7, which, despite what some people say about that game, is at present my favourite in the series. It's peak Dynasty Warriors. Warriors Legends of Troy does make for a good time waster, but when compared to other games in the Musou series, it does make a decent attempt to live up to the formula, but just falls a tiny bit short. While Koei Canada closed not too long later, at least they remembered the game by putting Achilles in the Warriors Orochi games, which is nice. If you're looking for a change in scenery but with familiar gameplay in the Musou department, then this game is definitely a curiosity to look into. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Warriors Legends of Troy Ajax out of 10. Whichever one I'm thinking of is entirely up to you, not that the rating means anything anyways. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.